Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2024, and today I want to talk to you all about boundaries. I realize that oftentimes people want you to sacrifice your boundaries for the sake of their desires. And I was thinking about how when I was in a former relationship, you know, at the time, I was dealing with a partner, and I remember asking them to do something for me, and they said, "You can do that with someone else, but you won't be doing that with me." And instantly I thought, this person would, they don't really like me, because if they liked me, then they will be willing to sacrifice their boundaries for me. And I realized, looking back in retrospect, I realized that I was asking them to do something that would jeopardize their safety. And I was asking them to do something that would interfere with their wellness. And I was asking them to do something that would jeopardize their safety for the sake of my own desires. And I realized that I was wrong for doing that. And the reason why I expected them to compromise their boundaries for me, because I've learned growing up that in order to love people and show them that you love them, you have to be willing to sacrifice and compromise your boundaries. And I realized this is not correct. I realized that this is not okay. Having somebody compromise their safety, their psychological safety, their emotional safety, just for your well-being. There were aspects during the course of my childhood where I had to compromise my own safety, my own feelings of readiness in order to make other people comfortable, you know? And I realized that, I was constantly growing up, I had poor boundaries. I used to always set myself on fire just to keep other people warm, giving chunks out of my flesh just to feed these starving individuals. And it's like, I did all this because I thought that this was what love meant. I thought love was being willing to kill yourself just to basically keep another person alive. And I realized that healthy boundaries require you to set limits with people. It requires you to not enable other people's dysfunction. When you constantly take from yourself to give to somebody else, especially people that aren't willing to help themselves, you are showing poor boundaries. You are showing poor boundaries. I think a lot of times we have to dignify people by letting them feel the natural consequences of their actions. That is so important. And when you have poor boundaries, oftentimes you try to shield people from the natural consequences of their actions. You try to protect them from the natural consequences of their actions. You don't want them to feel pain. You love them, but at the same time, it's those natural consequences that will inspire change. It's them suffering certain lessons and learning those lessons that will motivate behavior change. I realize the Department of Social Services is a good example of boundaries because they realize that poor planning on someone else's part does not constitute an emergency on theirs. If you want their assistance, if you want their cash benefits, the temporary assistance, the food stamps, SNAP benefits, you're going to have to comply with their regulations. Now, when you don't want to comply, you will be sanctioned. They'll give you the 30-day sanction, the 60-day sanction, the 90-day sanction. And that's the thing. You have to be willing to comply with their requests and their requirements. They need that paperwork to process your application. They need certain documentation to support your application. So if you don't provide those things, then you don't get their help. And I'm learning that I'm going to be the same way. If you do not provide me with the necessary tools or information that I need, I can't help you. And I'm telling that to my clients too. Clients come to me all the time. They sit in my chair. They want to lie. They want to try to get over. They want to try to manipulate. And while I get that manipulation is adaptive, they've needed it to survive in other situations. I get that. At the same time, it's unhelpful in a certain situation that they might be experiencing. Certain things that we did to survive when we were younger are no longer helpful for us. In fact, they hurt us. And so it's about relearning. It's about getting curious about what things and adaptive survival techniques have I continued to bring into my relationships with other people that are no longer helpful, that are in fact harmful to a relationship. And so I think that that's really important, you know? And as I mentioned before, my clients, they come to my chair trying not to be honest and above board. And so I tell them, my assistance is only as good as your ability to be honest with me. If you're not giving me the full story, if you're leaving out very crucial parts in order to make yourself look good or to prevent or avoid embarrassment, that's going to hinder the type of assistance I can offer. And so the thing about it is people do that all the time, which is their right. I realize it's everybody else's right to do what they want to do, but at the same time, there's a natural consequence. And that's the point. The point is we have to allow people to experience the natural consequence of their actions so that way they learn. You know, it's not expecting to constantly, it's not even, I would say not even expecting, but it's not constantly rescuing people from the consequences of their actions. Stop rescuing other people. You can't rescue them from the consequences of their actions. You gotta let them feel it. I think oftentimes we get so hung up in trying to rescue people, which is our own poor boundary system. And that's a reflection of our own boundary issues. And me, let me tell you, relationships in my 20s were all about me trying to rescue people, save them, prevent harm. But I realized that it was the harm that I was trying to prevent that was actually necessary for them to heal. You know, for them to come full circle, because in the Bible, it mentions in Hebrews, you know, Christ learned from the things that he suffered. You know, people learn from the things that they suffer. They learn obedience from the things that they suffer. So you have to learn sometime, not all help is good help. There is some help that is harmful, you know, and the help that is harmful is the help that enables. When you continue to enable someone by not saying anything, by turning a blind eye, and this is another thing, turning a blind eye to things, trauma will have you turn a blind eye to some very, very serious issues, you know? But when you turn a blind eye, you're not helping that person. You know, when you pretend that it's not happening, that it doesn't exist, that out of sight, out of mind type of mentality. No, because the thing about it is burying your head in the sand and refusing to see and acknowledge the elephant in the room, that's not going to get it. If anything, that's going to maintain the poor behavior. And so when you have good boundaries, you're able to, for one, acknowledge what is really happening and communicate that to a person that you love. Now, oftentimes, your concern will be met with a very defensive posture. Let's put it out there. Oftentimes, people will get very, very defensive. They'll get angry. They'll get upset. And that's because you hit a nerve. You know? Think about it. When you're sitting in the dentist chair, the dentist is drilling. You know? Novocaine hasn't fully kicked in. They hit a nerve. The first thing you wince. You wince. You react. And that's what people are going to do. They're going to react to your honest and constructive feedback. And that's okay. You put it out there, and if they get angry and they want to curse you outly, For one, you don't tolerate that. You let them know such behavior is not acceptable. If that continues, you're going to have to terminate the discussion. So you once again have to set that boundary. Don't prioritize their feelings over your emotional safety. No, I've learned that. Stop prioritizing everybody else's feelings over your emotional safety. Stop trying to always understand. Oh, I understand. No, do not overly understand everybody's story, because everything should not be understood. That's one thing. And on those rare moments you understand, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I understand, but it's not advisable. Yes, I understand why you're doing this and why you're doing that, but it's not advisable and it's not profitable. Okay, so that behavior has got to stop. We got to stop that from the door. And once again, you're going to be met with pushback. People are going to get angry, and that's okay. That's their right. You do not have to tolerate it. And please, 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 you've got to draw a line in the sand. And you got to start doing that now. And yes, people will not like you when you tell them the truth about how their behavior is affecting you, especially if it's negative behavior. They're going to get angry and come out of a bag, but that's their right. They have a right to their own feelings, and you have a right to keep yourself safe. You have to do whatever you need to do to keep yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually safe. And I think that growing up, I really didn't understand the value of keeping myself emotionally safe. Emotional safety is everything. And we don't oftentimes talk about emotional safety because it's not, I guess, tangible. It's not like physical safety where it can threaten our very existence. But truth be told, emotional safety, if it's constantly violated, it can threaten your safety, your overall safety. It can lead to physical danger. It can lead to so many things. It can trigger the onset of so many different issues, if you're not safe emotionally. And so, once again, if you're talking and dealing with people who are using abusive language, who are engaging in abusive speech, who are hostile, who are aggressive, who are just trying to yell and vent their own rage and frustration, you do not have to tolerate that. You set the boundary, and if the behavior continues, then you take action. That's what we are so afraid to do because we want to maintain relationship. We don't want people to be angry at us. We don't want to be seen as the bad guy. No. Don't be so worried about trying to please everybody else at the expense of your needs. You have needs. You need you. Love is not setting yourself on fire just to keep other people warm. That's not loving people. That's not loving anyone. That's not even loving you, because quite frankly, you are very valuable. Part of you loving another person is making sure that you take care of yourself so that way you can be here, present for another person. Now, if you are constantly compromising your values, beliefs, and principles, if you are constantly sacrificing and compromising your boundaries for the sake of another person, that's not going to keep you safe. What that's going to do is lead to resentment, anger, depression. It's going to lead to inner rage, anxiety, because you're always trying to please and always trying to make sure that other people are taken care of, and you're not taking care of yourself. When you do that, you instantly stop taking care of yourself. When you are so overly concerned with trying to make sure that everybody else is taken care of, everybody else is okay, you're not taking care of yourself. And so that's when you get resentful. For the longest time, I outsourced self-care. I thought that, okay, if I take care of this person, then they're going to take care of me, and it's going to be mutual, and it's going to be reciprocal. And oftentimes it was not. It was not. So I learned that I have to take care of self and invest in self and love self so that way I can be present for other people. And that to me is love. That to me is love, taking good care of yourself, making sure that you protect your emotional health, that you erect your shields, necessary to protect and deflect against the projections of other people. Because a lot of times people project their negative. They love to project their negativity. And so in 2024, I reject the projections of other people. I deflect, like those cuffs that Wonder Woman has on her wrists. You deflect the bullets of their projection. I refuse those projections. I refuse all the insecurities and all the inadequacies and all their issues. No. The projected fears of relatives who try to talk you out of your elevation because of their own fears. I reject it. I realize that it's about keeping myself emotionally safe so that way I can respect and be present for your journey. It's so important. It's so important. And to be honest, that's an act of love. That is an act of love. So this 2024, I'm encouraging you all to please set your boundaries. Please set your boundaries. Please begin to invest in yourself and put up your emotional shields and make sure that you are loving on you, because if you do not, you're going to be very angry. You're going to be hostile. You're going to be upset. If you're ever wondering, why do I feel depressed or why do I feel angry? It's because I'm not standing up for myself enough. It's because I'm not standing in my truth enough. It's because I'm not honoring the voice that lives inside myself. I'm continuing to allow the other voices of other people to reign supreme in my life, but my voice is being suppressed and squelched underneath this desire to get along with other people, underneath this desire to people please. Nah, it's not about people pleasing. It's about keeping yourself safe. It's about pleasing God and self. If other people can be pleased along the way, wonderful. It's no longer a requirement. Say that to yourself in 2024. It's no longer a requirement that other people like me. It's no longer a requirement that other people accept me and approve of me, because I approve of me. My Heavenly Father approves of me. I was born approved of. I don't need nobody else's approval, especially from a world that's crooked and twisted and warped. Please, that's like seeking approval from a bunch of zombies. Does it make sense to seek approval from people that are out of their head, that are out of their gourd? It doesn't. So, once again, stop doing it, because it's like into fool's gold. It's fool's gold. You get this gold of other people's approval, but it's not real. It's not real. They're not approving of you. They're liking you, liking them. They're liking you, validating them. They're liking you, taking care of them. They're not liking you and who you are, the real person inside in your heart. They're not liking you. They're not liking you because you're not showing you. You're showing this imposter, this representative, this person that is always trying to please and make other people happy. No. It's time that you begin to really, really approve of you and love you at all costs. You are your longest relationship. You have got to remember that. You are your longest relationship. Even when these people decide to leave, whether it be through separation, divorce, death, disagreement, you're always the one that is left. You are the difference in the quotient of relationships. You are always the difference. So you need to remember that. And that's why it's important to set those boundaries, so that way you keep yourself safe, healthy, and full. I tell you, it's a good feeling. It really is a good feeling. So I hope this video was very helpful. Definitely share some tips and some strategies that you employ in order to keep yourself safe and also keep your boundaries intact. Thank you so much for listening, y'all. Peace.